What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Purple People podcast. My name is Kyle Smith. You guys are here. Welcome back. Now that we finally have some news to talk about, we're going to get into it pretty much right off the bat. First, introductions as always. Kyle West, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good. Just got home from work, so I am ready to talk about Vikings football and do something fun, not work-related.
Absolutely. Adam Carlson is here as well. How are you, sir?
Like last week, I've been having some internet issues, so I might drop out a little bit, but I will do my best to return if that happens.
Awesome. I think we
Fair
only
enough.
lost you one time last week, clear at the end, so
Not bad.
fingers crossed that the good luck stays throughout the course of this show.
Absolutely. I'll do this at the beginning because I don't think we've ever done this before, but we'll do like an actual proper YouTube thing. Thank you guys that are already in the chat. Charlotte, I know you guys were here as always. Thomas Buge, regular. Like and subscribe, guys. Put that notification bell on, and you'll get the updates when we go live, and you'll be here in the folks. And get your first crack at giving your opinion on something. We're going to jump right into the news. This is episode 522. I have jacked up the numbering in this. I apologize. I'm trying to keep it back in order numerically so you guys know which one's the latest, but this one's called Don't Cook Back in Anger. I had to throw out a good Oasis reference there because I had nothing else. I want to make Dalvin. And the
I like they named it
right
after Dalvin Cook, though.
there we go. We were talking about him before we got started, and we can't be. But yeah, if you guys missed it, June 1st was last Thursday. Nothing happened. And I, like many Vikings fans on YouTube, thought, but I was like, come on, what do you guys do all day? Like, let's make the news. And then Friday it happened, or Saturday, one of the two. Dalvin Cook was released, I believe, on the 2nd after 4 p.m. Eastern. So he is officially able to go wherever he wants. This does free up some cap space for the Vikings. We're talking about 3 possible moves that this might affect, being Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, or Danielle Hunter. And that's going to be the bulk of the end of the show when we talk about Danielle Hunter. But Dalvin Cook, he will be missed. I don't have anything negative to say about him. I believe if you look at the Vikings Mount Rushmore, he has a very good argument to be in a Vikings running back Mount Rushmore. He has a lot of touchdowns, a lot of yards. He was a very good player for this team. But when you put it to the end, tell me what you guys think in the chat, guys, on the show. It just came down to money. That's all it is. Age and money has been the theme this year from the management of this team, and I think that's why he's gone.
Yeah, it's a position that you want to get younger and cheaper at. I have a fun take we can get to here in a little bit after everyone kind of shares their opinions, but we talk a lot about, we want to play Moneyball on the team and, kind of that New England Patriots method. Well, I think running back is the one position group that you really can play Moneyball and figure out production and snaps and other things. So we're actually going to look at the snap count here in a little bit for Dalvin Cook, and I got his average per game and kind of how you can break that down among the running backs on the roster, and kind of you can look at life after Dalvin Cook and say it's going to be a little different, but I think we'll be fine.
It's a little crazy to look at how each team is treating the running back position. I mean, the Vikings are willing to move on from Dalvin Cook, and you got the Cowboys moving on from Ezekiel Elliott. Then you got the Giants where Saquon Barkley is not going to sign his franchise tag and because he wants to be paid. It's like, take a look around, buddy. Read the room.
And to talk about Saquon for a second, I showed that video at work yesterday to one of my counterparts, New York Giant fan, and I said, I feel for him because nothing that he said was out of line. Nothing that he said was negative in any way. He said, we want to have that commitment, and that's been a theme the last 10 years, the NFL, 10-ish years. Hey, I just want to feel of they want to feel the love like a quarterback or a receiver would. They do more than just run the ball. They block, they catch, they do all kinds of things. But Kyle's point, and we got to talk about this, is and where I kind of wanted to round conversation to is there's a certain median. If you look at I saw this really funny pie chart the other day. I don't even know about a pie chart because it wasn't split like pieces, but it had different bands from the 90s, and it was happy, sad, angry. They put all the bands that did there, and I'll send it to you guys. It was wonderful. But looking at where you want to be, if you want to kind of be central, where it's affordable, they're effective, they do their job well, they don't have to be the best. I don't think you need to have Adrian Peterson, Derrick Henry, LaDainian Tomlinson, those kind of guys anymore. You can kind of have one person who does this well, one person who does that well, and rotate in. And I think that's what the Vikings are trying to do. Strictly when it comes down to money, all you have to ask yourself, and I think the teams are asking themselves now, are we okay with middle of the road production if it saves us money and we're not dead last? And I think the Vikings answered that.
The answer is yes. The answer is yes, because you can even see that if every running back in the NFL right now was to go on strike and say, boy, it's not fair the way we're being treated and contractually we don't get paid enough and blah 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 blah, we're all going to go on strike. Do you know what teams would do? We're just going to take a big-ass receiver like Cordero Patterson, and we'll just run you up the middle. I'm serious. We'll just run you right up the gut about 10, 15 times a game, and we'll be fine. It's such a shitty thing to do to a position group that used to be one of the most important. You had to have a running back. And anymore, you really don't.
Well, look at how the running back position's evolved. I mean, at this point in the NFL, fullbacks are almost gone, so there's about half the running backs that used to be in the NFL. Yeah. What, like maybe 5-6 teams still use a fullback?
Very few. Very few.
And then you got the running backs, which are all by committee these days, usually.
Yeah.
Or they have specialists. The ones that do have running backs that are on bigger contracts have quarterbacks that are on rookie contracts or smaller deals that make being able to afford a running back a lot easier. And as much as we want to like Kirk Cousins here, he doesn't have that contract like a rookie would have, to where it allows you that big amount of flexibility with the salary cap.
Correct. Or you look at running backs that are proven that actually are on some kind of a decent deal right now, is pretty much Christian McCaffrey. And, he gets traded to the 49ers. The 49ers were one of those rare teams right now that, like, hey, we got our P's and Q's in order, where financially we're set. We're not paying a quarterback a ton of money, and we're able to add a Christian McCaffrey and pay him kind of accordingly enough to keep him happy. And we can take on that contract. And we're also in a window where we're trying to compete. There are very few teams in that position that are financially able to take on that responsibility right now.
Yeah, I also want to point out, too, like you talked about the evolution of the game. Think about what a tight end used to look like. Didn't have to be very fast. You needed to be big, physical. Look at a guy like Kyle Pitts.
You need to block.
Yeah, you were an extra lineman, goal line or something. Now you look at a guy like Kyle Pitts. He's a wide receiver. He's a tall receiver. Look at Travis Kelce. I'm not saying he's not big, but they're elusive now. The game has evolved. And for better or for worse, 50 years from now, how is it going to look compared to it in the 80s? We'll see. But I'm for this team moving on from him. And this is the thing for Cook. And if he ever was to hear this, you are loved by the fan base. Even the emotions that happened right after from Twitter, it's nothing negative. It's also, he's 27. Dude's going to have at least 5-6 more years in the league, I believe. He'll be able to set all kinds of records.
You think so?
I think so, for sure.
Well, with his injury history and his durability, man, I don't know.
Here's the thing. That's a very good point, and he's had it before. But this is the healthiest he's ever been. He said his shoulder surgery is fine. He's ready to go. So unless something new happens, you're getting a guy that's, hey, I'm still in my prime.
We felt this way going into a lot of seasons, though.
I know. Yeah,
it's true. But I don't ever. This is the thing. And maybe I'm wrong for this. I don't hold any of that stuff against a running back of all positions because it's so brutal. Like, you're probably going to get hurt. But
which is also why. I mean, we're talking in circles a little bit, but that's why you don't pay a running back. We know you're going to get hurt.
Probably about 250 episodes ago, me and Mr. West were talking about how running backs just have such a short average span in the NFL. When you arrive in the NFL, if you're a running back, you got to get paid there while you can.
We looked it up the other day. How long has Cook actually been a Viking?
He was
6
drafted
years?
in 2017. That year is the year the miracle happened, and they went with Jerick McKinnon and Latavius
Yeah.
Murray, I believe. And then after that, he's had an ankle here, a shoulder there, but I don't count the ACL because like a lot of people tear their ACLs. If this was 15 years ago, like, oh my God, he's going to be set back 18 months. People come back
ACL
to
repair
ACL.
surgery ain't what we used to be.
It's 10, 11 months. You're back in practicing, which is nuts. Charlotte, who do you mean temper change? Are you talking about Cook here? Because I thought you might be referring to a former Viking that was we were talking to.
Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs drama.
So I looked this up on my new favorite app where you can just punch in anything about any player and it will just tell you the info that you need until it goes away. Well, let me relook this up because it's ridiculous here.
Yeah, he likes StatMuse. I love that website. And we can talk about that too, just a fun little side. We can keep talking about Cook. You guys in the chat, give your opinions on what you think about Dalvin and his time with the Vikings. But it was funny because I know where you're going with this. One Cameron Jordan, who I didn't know had over 100 sacks. He might go in the Hall of Fame, dude. He's pretty damn good. Didn't know he was that good. He made a passive-aggressive comment about our quarterback, and I thought it was hilarious because I'm like, I don't care that your franchise has won a championship. Have you won a championship? You have not. So when Kirk Cousins comes in and beats you at home in the playoffs, it kind of moots your point. And when he has such a good run against you, Kyle? You got that pulled up right in the chat or whatever. What's Kirk Cousins' career against the Saints? It's absurd. It's really good.
I have that too. You want some totals for Kirk Cousins versus the Saints? Because we got that.
What's up, Justin? Nothing against Cook, but yeah, it was his time. We talked about this at nauseam.
Kirk Cousins has a passer
happened.
rating of 117.6 with 1,569 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions in 5 games versus the Saints.
I mean, come on, dude. And I get it. Cam Jordan's been there for so long. He played with Drew Brees. Hall of Famer, no doubt. One of the greats. Champion, that fun stuff. But by God, has it been purgatory since he left. You rooted for Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill, and now you got a shittier version of Kirk Cousins and Derek Carr. Come on, dude. Come on.
But Cam Jordan's dad did do vignettes with Mr. Perfect, so that's pretty cool.
I know, but you gotta have some love for your dad's old team. Stop being a dick to us.
Here's what I wanted to talk about with Cook, because we talk a lot about how, like, oh, you want to play Moneyball in the NFL, and I really do think running back is one position group where, like, you could break this down statistically between a couple different guys, and you can pretty well get the production of, like, a Dalvin Cook out of it. So I looked it up. Dalvin Cook had 264 rushing attempts for the Minnesota Vikings in 2022. So if you take 264, and we're going to divide that by 17 games, that averages out to be 15.52, so we're going to round up and say 16 attempts per game. That's a little on the low side, because we know, certain games you want a little higher than that, whatever, but so 16 rush attempts per game is really all that you need to replace from Dalvin Cook. So you look at the backs that we currently have on the roster. Well, you're going to give Madison, 7, 8 attempts? You can
he'll probably get 10 touches.
Yeah, you give him 10. Okay. So we've got 6 more attempts that we want to fill. Well, Kenye is, I really think this year you're going to have a package for him. Maybe if you say 4 of those for kind of his package, I think that makes sense. And then, who's our running back 2?
Ty Chandler.
You give him 2-3 attempts a game. You give 1 to CJ Ham. You very easily can fill, I think, the production between those 2 or 3 guys and get what you just lost out of Dalvin Cook.
Well, the trend of the NFL for a lot of teams is to use a running back during that rookie contract, then let them leave in free agency and get a compensatory pick for that and just draft another running back.
Here we go. Put Jalen Reagor running back. Hell yeah.
I don't even think he makes the team. But I mean, when you really look at this, when you really look at this and go, we're replacing 16 rushing attempts per game.
Well, that's where I frame it. I don't frame it as the attempts. You can attempt as many times as you want. The Vikings have to ask themselves 2 or 3 questions. Number one, how many yards do you need or touchdowns do you need on the ground? How many third downs do you need to convert that are a rush? And number 3, okay, how many through the year do you need for a running back to come in and save your ass? Because he had 2 or 3 plays a year where he would break one off, being Dalvin Cook, and he would get you that touchdown. Like, we needed him in the Buffalo game. We needed him in the Indianapolis game. But what is the I need you factor? And that's where I feel like I hate to say that for him because I respect the hell out of him, but it's not a necessary. It's a want versus a need. I don't need you there. It's kind of a luxury thing at this point.
Here's my new favorite thing. Sorry, Adam, you can talk first. I'll let you go.
Well, with the Vikings offensive line the way it is too, I mean, I believe if I might be mistaken, but I think Dalvin Cook had the lowest yards per carry average of his career last year.
4.4 yards per carry.
So, I mean, if you're looking at effectiveness, this would be a good time to drop him off because he hasn't been as effective as he has been in the past. So if you're looking at it from a yardage perspective, you've also got to kind of wonder, are we doing enough to help him? And that question is a big question because with what the Vikings have invested in the offensive line as far as the draft and, you know, even free agency in the past, I mean, they've been trying to do everything they can. This isn't the offensive line that Adrian Peterson ran behind.
Right.
Well, to your point too, Adam, this also isn't the Zimmer era where we're going to give a running back 25 and 30 touches. Like, my favorite things you just think when you Adrian Peterson, we're talking about running, his MVP season, you know, they did that countdown they do every year, the top 100 players, and he was like, what, number 3 or 2 that year or something like that.
It
was
high.
Crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, he was super high. They used to have Jay Cutler back there. He's like, man, if that was my guy, I'd give him that ball 40 times a game. Sure, if that's where we were at. But we're also not running it as much under Kevin O'Connell. So that, I'm not defending Dalvin, but I am looking at the other variables like you are to say, okay, your production is probably going to go down because we're not going to use you as much as we used to as well, which totally drives the point home to all of us saying, yeah, it was probably time. And remember, I'm on the show. I'm going to say this until you guys kick me off the show. You Bill Belichick this thing every time. Don't do what Rick Spielman did. You get rid of him a year early rather than keep him a year too late. Every time. Fine if he go out, he goes to the Cardinals, the Dolphins, the Broncos, or whoever. He rushes for 1,400 yards. Cool. The chances and mathematics and probability of him doing that for 3 more seasons in a row, I will bet the under, and I will bet against it.
So here is one of my new favorite things to bring up, Smith, and I give you all the credit for this one. You know, you're looking at Cook had a little over 1,000 yards rushing last year, so that's basically the production we're trying to make up for, is the 1,000-some yards he had on the ground. You can do that I really think you can do that between about the 2 or 3 running backs we have on the roster. But like you figured out, you know, the 1,000 yards is how many per game?
59.
59 yards per game. So when you really start breaking this down and looking at the numbers, and I know numbers they don't tell you the whole story, but at the running back position, yeah, they sort of do. They sort of do. You're looking at coming up with about 16 attempts per game is what you're making up for. 1,000 yards, and what do you say, 59 yards per game?
Yeah, round it up. So we'll do an even number. We'll say 60 yards a game. That's not that much.
60 yards a game. I mean, you can figure this out. You can scheme this up and figure this out without him. And because of what you were paying him, you had to give him the touches that you gave him before. At the detriment of some of the other younger guys, you've just freed up the ability to say, hey, maybe we have these other guys, maybe we have Kenye, that we can treat more as a gadget player, of that package player that you can work in and we can scheme around that you couldn't do before. It frees up the roster in a different kind of way.
I actually have 2 other things that I was thinking about with this, and I just forgot one of them, so I'm going to go right into the other one. At the end of this season, if Dalvin Cook stays healthy with whatever team he lands on, he will outrush whoever the Vikings' leading rusher is.
Yes.
Sure.
And the media is going to grab that and just absolutely run with it. And it's all going to be, the Vikings made a big mistake. And we're all going to be sitting here saying, not so much. But that's not the way the media is going to see this.
It's crazy you say that, Adam, because I said that I've been very much an asshole on Twitter the last couple of days, and I apologize to nobody. Like, I understand what the business is, so I'm going to put that out there. I understand you need to talk about stuff and have it spin a certain way, but it just irritates me. Like Rich Eisen, I don't call him Cowherd anymore because he's annoying and he's a boomer and he gets on my nerves. But I like Rich Eisen. I think he does cool stuff. I always like the 40-yard dash thing. He has a plethora of guests. But it's like, I just can't for the life of me figure out this Dalvin Cook thing. Rich, have you never heard of a fucking salary cap before? Has none of your little plebs in there came to tell you, well, it's not because they don't want, their contracts are terrible. If I can figure that out here in Clover, South Carolina, surely you in New York can figure that out, dude.
Here's what I don't understand about the way the media covers the Vikings. So last year, when everyone was saying, the media was saying, it's a fluke that the Vikings have won as many games as what they have. Hey, they're not going to go deep into the playoffs. And
They're
guess
frauds.
What? They're frauds. And guess what? They were probably right. We didn't go that deep into the playoffs, and we probably shouldn't have won as many games as it has. Okay, that was actually probably a fair assessment of where the team was last year. The media is shitting all over the administration for not running it back with the same team we had last year that they just said wasn't as good as what they actually were, and they shouldn't have won as many games as what they did. So, tearing it down and getting rid of the aging veterans like your Dalvin Cooks and your Adam Thielens and your Patrick Petersons is what we should be doing, and that's what we are doing.
All right, so I do have a question for each of you guys. What is your biggest concern about the Vikings moving on from Dalvin Cook?
I don't know that I have one because I agree with the decision.
Here's what I agree with the decision. Here's what I think. I think as long as what we've invested in the running backs give you some semblance of value, I don't think there's anything. I don't think, like you said, Adam, he's going to go somewhere if he's the starter. And I think Denver's the perfect fit for him. I think Miami's a cool story, but they have 2 or 3 good guys there. The one guy in Denver that's there is coming off an ACL. He can go to Denver.
They don't even know if he's going to be ready.
Yeah, so he could go to Denver. He could rush for 1,400 yards. And good for him. I think he might do that if he goes.
See, even Charlotte Chat is saying there's no concerns moving on from Dalvin Cook, but I've got a major concern that I have not heard anybody bring up. I am really hopeful that moving on from Dalvin Cook does not impact the play-action passing game.
That's fair.
Because I want NFL defenses, when they play the Vikings, to still believe that there is a real tangible threat at running back to run the ball and pick up yardage and first downs. And I don't know if Alexander Madison is going to strike that fear into people the way Dalvin Cook did.
Mm-hmm.
He could also be set up by how they're going to run the ball now, because with the way he runs, I'm not going to sit here and worry about, oh, man, I hope he's going to break 150 yards every game. We know he's not going to do that. Maybe the other teams will key in on that too, but he'll beat him up the middle, which Cook never really was that kind of back anyway. So I think, depending on how it's designed, I'd be okay with it.
Because it's interesting to think that moving on from Dalvin Cook could negatively impact the play-action game and Justin Jefferson's production or T.J. Hawkinson's production, and it absolutely could.
Here's the thing, and this is not to battle with you on that. This is just the other side of it, which is where my brain always goes. Good, maybe they don't expect it, and then you throw a guy in there with a ton of speed like Keeney or Ty Chandler or whoever, and then he ends up being a problem. And it's like, oh, shit, we didn't plan for this kid. We've never seen him.
That would be a nice problem to have right there.
Right.
That's what we're hoping happens, right?
I would say my concern is the lack of the big play ability that Dalvin Cook had, because like you said, Smith, he did have the ability to bust out that big run and really turn the tide of a game. And I like the other running backs on the roster. I don't necessarily know if you're Madison, you're gonna have to you have to scheme harder, I think, to get a big play out of a Madison than what you do out of a Cook. Cook had the ability to
I don't want to see any more Madison stretches towards the sideline. That's what I don't want to see. That's not his game.
No, you know what you do? You put in, what's his name? The tight end we signed, Josh Oliver. You put him in there, move somebody out of the way, and let him just get you the first down. That's it. That's all I need you to do. And you get very well at that.
So with Dalvin Cook being moved on from, and now you're looking at, Alexander Madison coming in on a 2-year deal, CJ Ham getting an extension. I mean, you got a Vikings running back room that looks weird, but is stable at least for the next 2 years now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that even though they're stable, we still don't know what the stability is going to be until the Vikings take the field this season.
I think also, too, and this is such a generic statement, we got to layer in who we have now. You got Jordan Addison with speed and quickness. KJ Osborne's great. TJ Hawkinson's great. JJ's the best in the league. All this is going to set up, they say, well, we run, open up the pass. It can work the other way, too. And with the guys that we've added, we added another receiver to replace the aging Thielen, and then you added a tight end that can block. You mentioned CJ Ham. Who's to say we don't bring him back a little bit like we had 6, 7, 8 years ago where we moved people out of the way for Madison to get a big game? I mean,
well, we've talked in the past quite a bit about Kirk Cousins and what his biggest strengths are. And I will still sit here and say Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at selling the play action.
Yeah, he really is.
Sure.
Yep.
So being able to keep that a relevant threat is just going to be so important to this team's success. And I'm interested to see how this is going to work out this season.
Yeah, it's sad. There was a little bit of that social media. I don't want to troll. I think he was trolling. We all kind of knew Dalvin was going to leave, but
yeah,
a little bit of that social media game where there's a little no context. We bring this up, whatever. But I love the parting of ways. They were very friendly. I used it as a thumbnail for this one. He said, "Thank you all, Minnesota." He loves it here. We loved him. I'm glad there's not a lot of bad blood, but we mentioned it earlier, and somebody brought it up here in the chat. I'll bring it back up. Look at that running back free agent market. I would still, if you need a running back, and it's he's not that old. He's only 1 year ahead of Dalvin Cook. You have Ezekiel Elliott, who's proven. Dalvin Cook is out there, and there's another big free agent running back name. I forget the name, but these guys will find somewhere to go. I think the thing that's going to suck them realizing these teams are either going to commit 1 year with a decent amount of money, but not multiple years, or they're going to give you multiple years, and it's going to be a way lower base than $11 million a year, which the Vikings were going to pay Dalvin this year, and we were not going to pay him.
So how much were you guys laughing when you were seeing on Twitter some of the experts saying, "Watch Minnesota and Ezekiel Elliott"? It's like, what?
I've never seen that, and I'm glad I didn't, because that is hysterical.
I did see that, and it's like, dude, a big part of the reason why they're moving on from Dalvin Cook is because of how much this team has invested in already replacing Dalvin Cook. They would not have moved on from him if they didn't think that they had viable pieces on the roster right now.
Not only they go out in free agency and bring Alexander Madison back, but they used a draft pick on a running back this year too. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like they're thin or they have nothing invested in the position at this point. They've got guys that they believe in on the roster that they have picked and brought in. So,
and with what the NFL is doing to special teams on, kick returns, Kenye, man, the time is getting shorter and shorter for him to have a roster spot, because it's getting to the point where I don't know how important that specialty position is that he's formerly filled. So you have to find a way to work him onto the field and have that package of plays. Otherwise, man, the NFL is cutting your job out, man.
Yeah, these days special teams is going to be more about being able to secure a fair catch than it is to be able to make a return. And as much as I like Jalen Reagor and he's got speed and all that, his ability to haul in those catches is just questionable. And I've never really seen Kenny be able to or have a lot of problems bringing in the kickoffs, so I don't know.
Right. Dude, I don't know what you do with Reagor. I don't know if he makes this team.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Do you need him?
I like Jalen Naylor. There's a kid that took Adam Thielen's number. I don't know if he's any better, but it can't be much worse. Yeah.
The
He's been in the league for,
Powell,
what, 5 or 6 years?
yeah, he might be a sneaky kind of. We'll see what he does in camp. I'm kind of excited to see him get an opportunity. He might thrive in this system. That's a name to watch for, I think.
Well, we'll give our send off and say thank you. I will, before we can transition to Danielle Hunter and talk about him, I just want to say I want to make all you guys jealous because I just keep having this happen and I love it. I ran into Adam Thielen at the Charlotte airport on Thursday, and he was super nice to me. We took a photo. If you go to my Twitter, my handle was on there. I'll take it down and let you guys look over our stuff here. You've got all our handles here at the bottom under our names. But I posted a picture of it. It was super nice. Yeah, that was kind of Minnesota royalty. He told me to change my Vikings lanyard, and I said not a chance. Pretty hilarious. And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, you're going to retire in Minnesota. I know you're trying to do like the company thing right now, but let's be real. You're at the Charlotte airport flying out on a Thursday. Where are you going?
Back
Going to
home.
Minnesota?
He's going
Maybe?
back home.
Yeah.
He's going back home to Minnesota.
Going to Vegas. Roll them dice.
Going to do the family man stuff. But yeah, I ran into Adam Thielen, and it was
That was really cool
that
he took. That was really cool that he took the opportunity to take a picture and chat with you very briefly and stuff. Adam Thielen, like you said,
seems like a genuinely nice dude.
He really does. It sucks that he couldn't retire a Viking.
Actually, didn't he have to come home for that charity baseball game?
Bingo.
Maybe. But you're right. He'll retire a Viking, and he'll work for K-Fan or something like
He
that.
said he's
right
going to
next
do
to Ben
professional
Lieber in
golf.
there.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to go try and be a professional golfer, and he may very well do that. which is kinda
Professional
crazy.
golf ball whacker guy.
Great reference.
What do you guys think
So
of the
let's talk
photo
about
of...
Danielle Hunter.
Hold on, real quick.
Oh, go ahead.
What did
sorry.
you guys think of the photo of Eric Kendricks and all his Chargers gear?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it yet, Adam? Boy, that's another weird one to look at, too.
Speaking of the Charger, I have something to segue to that. Not to take away from Eric Kendrick stuff. Did you see Justin Herbert's thing about going to media day?
No.
Oh man, people were reading so hard into that. I know Adam likes to shit on it. This is hilarious. I think it was a friendly thing between him and the media guys because I don't think he genuinely meant that. But he walked out in his uniform to do press. He was sitting in like one of those Hollywood chairs, whatever. And he's walking out, but he has his finger down like this the entire time. And it's very subtle, but you have to look for it. And everybody's like, "Is this what a leader does? Oh, this is why he can't win the big game." And I'm like, I hate the internet sometimes. You have to be very stupid to believe this is something to talk
Adam,
about.
I like the point that you made in our private chat a while ago. What's the point of these media sessions? Like, really, like, what is the point?
So you can get nuggets like you get from that coach down in Miami.
Yeah, his weird answer about Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, how he wasn't
He's
born
such a-
yesterday.
Yeah.
It's such an odd guy. God, he's so weird, but I love it. It's all it is to get eyeballs for you to talk. Go visit the website, look at their social media, all that shit. It's all it is. Get you hyped up for the season.
Well, we're
It's not
talking about
happening for
awkward.
another
Have you
2
seen
months.
like some of the interactions?
Oh, I think we just lost
Adam.
Adam.
Yeah,
Oh.
damn. We'll wait for him to come back.
Okay.
See
Hopefully
if he can
comes
get
back
his
soon.
point back whenever he's there.
Now, I always thought it's so weird, though, that, like, it's immediately after a game, and all of the reporters just huddle around someone by their locker and, like, let's shove as many microphones in your face as we can and get a bunch of non-answers about it. Welcome back, Adam.
Yeah, you froze on us. My bad.
I don't know if I got to finish saying my stuff about the awkward hugs in Arizona,
No, you didn't, so...
but I don't know if
No.
you've seen them, but they are weird.
That's crazy, man. All these bigs, and it's crazy because athletes sometimes don't consider, especially like the O lineman or whoever, the kicker, don't consider themselves celebrities. But you have that celebrity status where you just have people who want to be around you and talk to you all the time.
Mhm.
And then you notice shit like that. I don't know what you're talking about, but I definitely want to watch all hugs at the Arizona Cardinals facility.
But being able to
I'm a
handle a
weirdo
star
like that.
player on an NFL team, if you are like the equipment manager or something, it's got to be weird because there is that level of, okay, this guy's a complete star in this league, but I need to tell him that he needs to replace his equipment. There is a all his band for resistance training. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to take some confidence to be able to walk up to someone and be that way, be very authoritative with someone who, could just absolutely demolish you.
That's why someone like Dennis Ryan was so important for the number of years that he was the head equipment guy in Minnesota. And because we got to see it all those years we went up to Mankato in training camp. Adrian, it was everyone else and then Adrian Peterson on how they handled him and how he went to and from practices and how he was treated. And
we saw a touch that was a Brett Favre treatment, but those two have been the only ones in recent memory that I remember.
Well, it's fun too on my social media. I'm friends with one of the equipment guys. Shout out to Terrell. He's cool. So much fun. Guy. He always sends I'm telling you every day. I'm not trying to milk this shit and say I'm popular or something. I just genuinely enjoy the friendship there. It's always the stupidest, most get you in trouble at work memes or reels on Instagram. And he's a fun guy to be around. And I ask him, from time to time about the Vikings. I sent him a photo of me and Thielen, and he goes, "Want me to text?" I was like, "Dude, he's already through the gate. What are you gonna say? Come say hey to my friend?" I was like, "I already bugged him for a photo." He goes,
"Yeah, don't bug him again."
I could text him for you. And then he's like, I said, the Cook news is how do we feel? He goes, "I'm really sad that him and Cook, Kendricks and Cook are gone." He's like, "I talk with them almost every day." They build relationships there, so I felt bad for him seeing all those guys get. What a cool job, dude. I thought my job was cool. Everybody tells me that, you get to work with a dog every day. Fuck that dog. I'll go work for the Vikings to be the help guy. Give me that job.
Can't you do that for the Vikings? Don't the Vikings have to have someone who does, your job, right? What you need to do.
Well, you could do it for a different company, but I don't know that it would be a year-round thing, and I'm not sure they're going to pay me the same. So that's the thing.
Yeah,
for here,
it's worth it.
TSA will let you go to the Panther Stadium. They've requested our help.
Hold on.
TSA, the leadership here denied it.
Hold on, Smith. No. I gotta move my microphone in for this one. So you're saying you won't take a hometown discount for the Minnesota Vikings?
Absolutely not. Me and my agent are going to renegotiate my contract. Damn, I want more money.
So it's almost not fair when you ask a player to take less money to play for the Vikings.
No, because I'm special. They are not. It's all about me and everything I want. Look in my eyes, everyone. This is going to be burned on the internet for the rest of eternity on some server. I am special. Okay. No, I've had the opportunity here. TSA, for whatever reason, I won't get to it because I want to get fired. They didn't let us do that, and I begged this year. I was like, please let me go before work, because they have the opposing teams that come in too. I don't know if I'm going to be doing the Panthers or the visiting team. How cool would that be? I'm I searched Lamar Jackson today. How fucking cool is that?
Yeah, guess what I found.
I don't know. I just thought it would be a cool thing. That's a cool job, but I also know that's very, very hard to get into. And they're not just going to hire some Joe Schmo off the street. They'd be like, you just want to work here because you're a fan? Get out of here. We're not hiring you because you're a fan of the team.
Are you guys familiar with Bears defensive tackle Justin Jones?
I'm not.
Not offhand. Why?
He is not going to make any fans among the Packer fans.
All right, what did he do? Do I need to look this up?
I'm excited about this.
Yeah, me too.
Also, listen, random.
Earmuffs if you've got young ones around. But he called them shitty, obnoxious, and half of them don't even know football.
Well, I'm buying his jersey because that is great.
He also said that he wishes Aaron Rodgers was still there so they could beat him.
Well, that's the problem, because you never do beat him, so there's your issue. How dare you talk to your owner that way? That's so
what?
The NFC North is going to be so fun this year because it's going to be so wide open and just wacky.
Why did he? What sparked these comments? Did he just wake up and choose chaos today?
I'm assuming he was asked about not being able to play against Aaron Rodgers this year.
I take back everything I said about these press conferences in the locker room. And whatnot. Those are the kind of quotes I want to get. That's the good
also,
shit.
I have to do it. We always do a show at night. It's only 5:45 on the East Coast here. It's so bright behind me, I can't see myself. I have lights on in the kitchen. I have lights on here. This is wild. We got to do more shows around. What do you guys think? Can we do more shows around dinner time and rush hour traffic? Do you guys prefer this? Or do you prefer the 11 p.m. Eastern?
I eat dinner around like 2 a.m., so you're not talking to me.
I mean, we sure have a lot more
so
people
funny.
with us in the chat room than what we do at midnight. So, I don't know.
That's so funny. Well, let's get on to this because
Danielle Hunter.
I thought we were going to talk about this at the 30-minute mark, but we're 40 minutes in. We haven't even talked about it. So Danielle Hunter is not showing up to with mandatory camp they're doing now. I've seen mixed opinions about this on Twitter, and all I have to do is say this. I believe in Patrick Jones. I believe in DJ Wanham. But please, dear God, we already got rid of Za'Darius. I don't know who's going to rush a passer if you guys want to trade. Half of Twitter is like, F this dude. He's always injured. He does this every year. Trade him. And I'm on the other half of being like, you need to study economics and business. This man is underpaid. I realize that he signed a contract, and maybe his agent sucks. But I want Danielle to stay. His agent does suck.
He got hosed.
But I want Danielle
Actually,
Hunter
his
to
agent
play
did a
here.
fantastic job of acquiring the money early in the multi-year contract. And now that the front-loaded contract, the big money at the very beginning is over, and the smaller amount is there at the end of the contract, now it looks like he's not getting compensated for the season. And that's why you do not front-load contracts in today's NFL.
That's a good point.
Right. I'm torn
And if we're
on
doing-
Danielle Hunter. I still think that he has some good play and some good seasons left in him. I don't know how many, and that makes me leery to re-sign him to a long-term contract. The defense was terrible. Danielle Hunter is good, and we know he can be good. Does he fit into the scheme that we are running? That's another question that I can't answer because, spoilers, I am not the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings. So I don't know the answer to that.
Give it another year or two and you might be.
Yeah, I would like to think that Brian Flores can look at a Danielle Hunter and go, hey, I can use your skill set, and it is not dropping you back into coverage.
Let's hope not.
So these are all things where, like, I don't know what the answer is.
You guys keep going. I'm going to go over the cap now that Dalvin is gone, and I'm going to see what the money situation is. I think we all could agree that the three things I mentioned earlier, TJ, JJ, and Danielle Hunter, we could all focus the money there, whatever's left. But I don't know that Danielle is the priority there. I would much rather Justin Jefferson be happy than Danielle Hunter.
Yeah.
Jefferson and Hawkinson have to be towards the top of that priority list. And then you've got guys like KJ Osborne, who is going to get looks in this NFL. If he has another decent season, he'll get looks as a wide receiver too somewhere else if he hits free agency. So if Minnesota doesn't lock him down soon, they have a real risk of losing him in free agency this offseason.
And if you can get KJ Osborne on a 3-4 year deal that works for both parties, and then hopefully you hit on Addison. Well, by the time Addison comes up to redo his deal, maybe you're moving on from KJ. That's a good scenario to have as well, too.
I'm still baffled at the dead money that is wasted this season. It's $36.5 million. It's so much money.
Yeah,
this is what happens when you keep kicking the can down the road, though.
It sucks. And up until I won't even count Eric Kendricks. His is less than $2 million. Za'Darius, Dalvin Cook, Dalvin Tomlinson, and Adam Thielen, $4.5 million, $5 million, $7.5, $13.5 million to Adam Thielen. Jesus Christ!
Oh, they're paying Adam Thielen $13.5 to not play for the Vikings. Holy shit!
That says a lot.
You got to do it though. You got to eat your crow at some point.
But this is the great part. You guys want to take a guess if you haven't looked yet? And in the chat, I'll wait. Guess how much money the Vikings have now versus – you remember when we did this like 3 months ago and they had like literally $900 there just waiting?
Oh, $350.
Yeah. I'm terrible at cap stuff. I have no idea.
In the chat want to guess just so you'll have the pride of knowing it. But I have it here now. The Vikings have much breathing room as far as team's cap space goes. This is very good. So I'm very happy with that. Hunter, I would like to see keep Stuart Flores, dude, getting a first rounder, so might as well. I agree too. We're not going to get a first rounder out of that guy. You're not.
Yeah, that
But
was.
I will defend him. He's got 71 sacks. It's a shitload of sacks, and he missed a whole year.
I know.
He's a
He
very
also
good player.
disappeared last year once the injury to Darius Smith happened. Once he was the focus of the opposing
It's true, but I
offense.
have to defend him on that. Ed Donatell fucking sucked at his job. I understand that it's half of the player making the play, but good Lord, that defense was
He was more effective once the defense started moving him closer to the line.
Yeah, that's because that's where he should be playing.
Yeah, of course. Cliff says 13.4. I feel bad if we get Flores just to lose his two best. I know. You already lost one. Like I said, I believe in Patrick Jones and DJ Wanham, but there's a reason they're on the second and third string. You know what I mean? So, but the answer to that question I asked was $17.8 million in cap space now.
Not too shabby.
Do some stuff with that.
Okay, so if Danielle Hunter is traded, you're going to have two new starters for the Vikings at edge rusher, and you're going to have two new starters for the Vikings at starting cornerback. This could be scary or it could be good. I'm not sure what's going to happen here.
You know what it could be, Adam? And I believe this because we've said it on this show, and I believe it will come to fruition. It just makes sense. I think the defense will be better this year than last year. They got a couple of breaks and really relied every game on a big play, like an interception at the right time or whatever. I think the defense will be better. I think the team will be worse. I don't think you're going to compete 13-4. I think you're most likely 10-7 on a good, we played up to our abilities most of the time. I don't think they're going to rank 30th again. I think Brian Flores can change that culture and, use them the right way, but that would not be ideal.
Here's what I think about trading Danielle Hunter. Thomas has a really good point where he said you're not getting a first rounder out of him. I agree. You're not. And I still think that he's a good enough player that I'm not willing to just give him away. So yep. I'm not I'll entertain some trade offers, and you can go around on the internet. There's a couple, fan websites that have put out what they think their teams would give up to trade for Danielle Hunter. And that's interesting to look at because you can see how other fan bases view some of our players. And I think there was one from Denver. It's hey, we'll give you our right guard and a third or a fourth round pick and some other, a later pick for next year. And you can bring us Danielle Hunter.
And send the paperwork over right now. Send it right now.
I'm not interested in your Ezra Cleveland, because that's probably what you're giving us. He's a guard and he's okay, he's young, but he's just a guy. I don't
you said right guard,
Ezra
and
Cleveland.
I thought Ed Ingram. I immediately went no, get somebody else. We're good. I'm making a joke, guys. I'm going to give Ed Ingram the benefit of the doubt.
But you know where I'm going at? I don't need your project player and your draft pick that doesn't really help me trade up and get a quarterback for the future. So the only way that I'm getting rid of Danielle Hunter is if you're giving me enough ammo for either next year or the year after that, I can trade up and get that quarterback in the first round. And if you're not getting that, you might as well keep him, right?
While we're talking about pass rushers, let's take another second to talk about Marcus Davenport, because the way that his whole thing is set up in Minnesota, it's almost as if it's set up for just a one-year rental, because there's no real great way to figure out what's going to happen with him. Because, okay, let's say Marcus Davenport has a great season. He brings let's say 14 sacks and just is a regular getting pressure. He's going to go sign a multi-year deal somewhere while Minnesota is trying to lock down Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson. And let's say he comes out and has a 2.5 sack season. He's just disappointing. You spent $13 million for 2.5 sacks. I mean, it's a lose-lose situation no matter how you look at this with Marcus Davenport.
Can we meet in the middle at 8.5 sacks and it's just kind of okay?
I don't think that's even 8.5 would be disappointing.
I don't know. I wanted to give DJ a shout out here, DJ Hopkins. I didn't know. I don't know if I've seen your name in here before, man.
He's been in here a few times. He's a Twitch streamer that I enjoy watching.
Nice. Kansas City had rookies at corner all season. Yeah, but they're kind of the outlier. I feel like anybody that's going to go that's talented is going to succeed. I don't know. They just know what they're doing over there.
But it's a solid point where, like, if you hit at your draft picks and you know what you're doing schematically and set them up to succeed, like, you can do it. It's a scary proposition. I agree with Adam, but you gotta make the plunge at some point.
Yeah, they've got to figure it out, and it's kind of just ripping the Band-Aid off at this point, which is I'm glad that this management is doing that. I'm glad they're getting out from under the older players and the contracts that they had attached to them. And this is just you're just gonna have to, you have all these ingredients, you've made your meal, now you're gonna have to eat it and see what it tastes like this season. And I'm optimistic that it's gonna be good, but I think we're all in the house of we understand it's probably not going to be 13-4 again. Do I think they can win the division again? Absolutely. I don't think this is immediately handed to Detroit, but I don't know. I feel like you lost them a little bit of juice, and for it kind of balanced itself. How bad they were in certain areas, with how bad the defense was, you got a better coordinator, but you lost players. Oh my God, we lost Adam Thielen, but you got Addison. I feel like it balances it out. I just want. If coaching wise, they're going to step up and do their job, because last year was fun. Had to feel good, like, oh my God, this guy's different than Zimmer, and look at these games. Okay, well, now they have film on you. What are you going to do?
Okay, so now when you look at the roster, the one name that kind of sticks out to fans that have been around for a little while is Harrison Smith, who took a pay cut to stay in Minnesota this year. But you can't really believe that Harrison Smith is going to be a long-term player in the Vikings' future plans. No. So, I mean, if this is one more year for Harrison Smith, does he hang it up after this one?
I feel like that's where he's headed.
That's what I'm leaning towards. I think so.
Which, if so, hell of a career. We talked about it last episode.
I can see Harrison Smith going in the Ring of Honor.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's well-deserved. And like the last episode, he has the same exact, if not better numbers than Troy Polamalu in his career. I understand it was a different era. I understand he has Super Bowls. But that's a pretty damn good resume. But I feel like this is the last we're going to see of Harrison Smith, if at all, in a Vikings uniform. I think he's probably done after this year.
Yeah, Vikings fans that haven't watched the Vikings in probably 6-7 years are going to tune in this year and be like, who?
Yeah.
Harrison Smith, man, he's the one guy that, like, let's say this is his last year in Minnesota. I am perfectly okay if he goes to chase a ring and signs for whoever the top contender is. And, dude, I don't care if you play 5 snaps for him. If you can get that ring, go get that ring after this year.
Or what if you have a good role that's not, like, majorly impressive, but you still contribute? Like, Jerick McKinnon's a Super Bowl champion now.
Right.
He was out there.
Right.
Go do it, man. Why not?
The Belldozer has a ring.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I forgot about that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I want it to be in Minnesota. I just don't know if it's going to work out that way for him.
It's not going to be this year. I just don't see this team being a Super Bowl contender this year. But I feel like they're doing the right thing now. They're doing the bodybuilder thing. Going to the gym, eating the meals, even though the meals taste like shit and it's boring sometimes. But they're doing the necessary things they need to do. They've gotten younger. They're trying to make the money work. It's just this isn't a flashy, sexy thing. And to your other point, Kyle, I just want to say this because I wanted to say it earlier. I don't disagree with you on the Danielle Hunter thing. If you get something to like load up, it's kind of like me. I'm playing music right now, even though I have a job and I'm going to make a lot of money on these gigs. The extra money's cool. I want to put this out there in the universe. Kevin O'Connell, Questy, have you ever listened to this? If you're going to buy some bum in a lazy boy computer chair, here you go. I don't care if you have the assets from another player or not. If you want a quarterback, you go fucking get him anyways. You're signing a loan. You're like, I'm willing to forge my life for this amount anyways. Go get him. Yeah, if we another second for Danielle. But if you're gonna go get a quarterback, fuck it, just write a blank check anyway.
But here's the thing, though, too. Vikings fans need to prepare themselves for the quarterback of the Vikings draft to not be the next Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. We need to be ready in case this is another situation where the Vikings draft a quarterback that just doesn't work out.
Which the mathematics say will probably happen.
I mean, it's a lottery. It's a gamble every time you choose a player that high in the draft, especially a quarterback, because you're going to get a lot more Josh Rosens than you get Josh Allens.
Oh, God. There were 9 mistakes ahead of me. Ugh. Woof. And what sucks is, too, you go get a guy like I love
the squad last year.
Yeah, he was.
For a brief time. Yeah.
He didn't even make the team, dude. So sad.
Former Minnesota Viking, Josh Allen. Or Josh
So
Rosen, I mean.
this is the crazy part too, is thinking about like I like Drake May out of North Carolina. He looks to be promising. He's got the size. What if he comes in and he's Andy Dalton at best? You're completely right, Adam. The probability says that most of the time, if you're betting out of 10 times, the majority stake is going to be you're probably going to get an Andy Dalton at best. But I feel bad for guys like Baker Mayfield. He was great in college. Oh, he's a little small. He's turned out to be kind of a bust in the NFL. That's your number 1 overall pick. But that's the gamble that you take when you go for those guys.
Dude,
but I want the Vikings to stop doing this. Well, let's see what we can get at value at 22 this year. Fuck that. Go up to trade to number 2 and go get your guy.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the Vikings being good but not great pretty much all of the time. They never really have a bad enough season to where you're picking in top 3. You know.
Yeah, it's been a while since the Vikings have had a Matt Khalil pick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the one year that we were that high, hey, we're gonna take Matt Khalil.
And he was good till his knees gave out. But Thomas asks a good question here about Scene. And I recently did a starting 22 prediction. I did not have Scene in it. Because I feel like the Vikings aren't going to put him into a starting role since they're going to bring back the 2 starting safeties from last year. Mm-hmm. I do think that they do have a role in mind for Scene and a way to use him as a rotational guy and situationally. And I do think he can still contribute in a big way that way. I don't think he has to be a starter to make an impact.
Correct. Just because he's not starting doesn't mean he won't have a big impact on this team. That's fair.
Well, you can also take it like the way I think of it is when a rookie comes in and they get injured pretty early and they're out for the year. Yeah, he has a season with the team, but he has the advantage of knowing like a scheme, knowing the ins and outs, having the routines. But I'm still going to give him rookie benefit of the doubt because he kind of is one.
Well, last year's Vikings draft class, we didn't get to see a whole lot of because of injuries, especially at the top. I mean, with Scene and Booth both missing time in that secondary, we don't really know what the Vikings have in either of those guys at this point.
Yeah, we can't fairly judge them. That's a good point, Adam. DJ, you're just fired. At least Minnesota what's the first-round pick on a new 30-year-old. That was wild. Ugh. Such a Cleveland thing to do. I agree with you, too, with your earlier comment. Bright side is the NFC North, realistically, will most likely come down to Minnesota or Detroit. Anything can happen when the playoffs start. I mean, yeah. Very rarely do you get number 1 seeds from both conferences going in. Usually there's some upsets. So you're correct on that.
It's funny how there's this general consensus among Vikings fans that we're probably not going to be that good this year. ... But we're also going to win the division.
Yeah,
because those are 2 things that don't usually go together. Are we just assuming that the division is that weak that we're gonna have a not good record and still win it? Is that what we think?
I just don't buy into
looking at the other teams in the division and seeing teams that I know people are loving Detroit right now, but I mean they have a lot of production to pick up on the ground because they lost a lot of production there.
Also, their defense sucks ass. It was
last in the league last year.
And the pretty shiny new wide receiver that we got last year had the dumbass and gamble. He literally just had a relative do it at his house and not in the facility, and now he's out for almost half the season. That's so stupid of you, dude.
And I don't think Justin Fields has proven that he can be a quarterback that can win games in the stretch unless he can do it with his legs.
I will make the proclamation here. I will make one obvious statement, 1 and 2 not so, I don't want to say bold, but not popular ones. The not so obvious, like, hey, this is everybody's consensus that's not a Chicago Bear fan. I don't care what your thing is on paper. I believe in Justin Fields. Prove it to me and make me eat my words that you're going to throw the ball all over the – because he was 34th out of 32 last year for, passer rating or whatever. He was awful in the air. Yeah, he's athletic, but – haven't seen shit from him. I don't believe in Chicago until they prove me wrong. Here's where I'm going to battle back. Because he had so much time behind Aaron Rodgers and because that team is just very well ran, I don't think Chicago's the biggest threat to us this year. I think it's Green Bay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're not wrong.
No, Jordan Love don't scare me one bit.
No, I'm not saying that he scares me, but I buy in more to the Packers being less of a drop off with Aaron Rodgers gone, because let's face it, the last couple of years, give a shit, he had an MVP 2 years ago.
Well,
That
let's
team was
talk
pretty
too about
fucking bad
that
last
Packers
year.
team for a little while too, because when Aaron Rodgers was at his best, that Green Bay team, the offense was running through the running game. And he was, I don't want to see it being a game manager, but he's making the most of fewer opportunities. And that led to him being an MVP. So, I mean, not like Green Bay needs amazing quarterback play to be
Correct.
successful. They've got a really talented young defense, and they've got some pieces, especially on offense. I hate to say they've got some exciting young receivers, but they do.
Yeah, they got youthful, and the Vikings didn't want to stay there if they weren't going to pay him, and Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to be there, which he ultimately left. But I think the reality is everybody's overhyping Detroit, which I get it. They ended the season very well, but your defense is still god awful. You've lost a piece for the first 6 weeks on your offense. You let go part of the running game. I just think it's more realistic to think that Green Bay won't drop off nearly as far, and they would contend for the division. If equally, maybe slightly above Detroit. And I don't see many people talking about that. I'm with you, Adam. I'm not scared of Jordan Love whatsoever, but there is something to sitting behind a Hall of Famer and getting
And do you
time
really
to
think
develop.
Jared Goff is going to have as good of a season this year as he did last year?
No. Dude,
He has
I'll
never
say it
been
now.
a consistent quarterback.
I will say this, and I will say it as nicely as I can. I know people will defend this and say, oh, but this and that. Jared Goff and Kirk Cousins are practically the same quarterback. It's fine. They're good, not great. They're good, not great.
I disagree.
They both do similar things very well. I'm not saying that they can't do. Yeah, I'm not saying they can't go to the playoffs, but let's be real. Like,
I'm not going to compare their attributes, but if you were making a tier list, I think they would be closer to each other than a lot of people want to believe.
Absolutely, and that's kind of exactly the point that I'm making. Yes, very well said. I was talking to Jordan Love. I got to the Jared Goff thing. I'm not shitting on any of these guys. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just it's from what I've seen, like especially the national media. They've already written in the Detroit to win the division, go to the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Like, can we hold off on that?
Well, I
just
tell you
a
what,
second.
I don't get the hype around Justin Fields. He is so overhyped in the media right now, and I don't know if it's because fantasy football production for him is just off the charts.
He's exciting to watch. He is. I'll give him that.
I mean, sure.
But I mean, now they traded for Chase Claypool, and now they traded for another star receiver for him to be able to have weapons to throw to, since they apparently had nothing, even though Mooney was supposed to be a better receiver than Adam Thielen, if I remember right.
Right.
So and then they used their draft picks to secure the offensive line. So the Bears have the tools now to actually execute a strong passing offense if they can. But the question is can they? We'll have to watch and find out.
I love this comment too. It's like Jimmy G and Derek Carr being the same. Only Goff and Cousins are better. I 100% agree. The national media would argue with you about that, and they will be like, Jimmy G and Goff went to a Super Bowl. It's a team sport.
But Jimmy G is so handsome, and Derek Carr looks like he just left a
Toy Story,
by the Cure.
Toy Story live action role play of Sid. He looks like the kid from Toy Story. I don't know. I agree with this. I think Goff and Cousins are slightly better. I think they're closer together, but I'm not like, I don't know. We can talk about this on another episode because I can go down the rabbit hole on this. But I think the Vikings have a fighting chance. Yeah, they lost some pieces, but to round out the point is those pieces also weren't getting on the wild card round for many years. I loved Patrick Peterson being on this team. I was so pumped he came back last year. I love Eric Kendricks. I didn't want to see him go. But on paper, when you separate the emotion from the brain and logic of it, it's like, no, you can move on from these guys. It's going to be okay. So, yeah, let's see what happens. I'm excited for Brian Flores. I'm going to say that every episode until we start the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we get blown out in week 1, like, fuck this guy. Kick him out of here.
I'm still not
kidding.
100% in on the 3-4 defense. I don't know if it's a good fit, but maybe once they get personnel in there that maybe fit it a little bit better, it'll look better and it'll execute better. Because 31st is just not good.
I still don't know. Are they running a 3-4? Or did we low-key switch back to a 4-3 and we're just like, bah, but every now and then it's a hybrid scheme? Because to me it kind of feels like we backtracked.
I have not seen a
on that
committed
bit.
answer on that, actually.
Yeah,
I
that's a good
believe
point.
that Flores was asked about that, and he said, well, what's the situation? Who are we playing?
Yeah, he gave a very fluid answer on that. At least I remember when in the initial press conference, he was like, "Oh, we'll do many things." I'm like, that doesn't answer shit.
Right.
If you ask me, this is a 4-3 scheme where every now and then we put Lewis Seen in as an extra linebacker.
Right, and Flores wasn't born yesterday.
Unless he was, because I don't know what his birthday is.
That was the weirdest answer to a press conference, dude. So weird. That's up there with like, we're gonna bite each other's cap off. Like, what are you saying? Oh,
Those sound bites are so good, though.
so good.
Well, so Vikings fans, keep an eye on social media because there should be a little bit more movement on whatever's going on with Danielle Hunter over the next few days. Who knows what that movement will be, but there should be something happening here soon, whether it's an extension or a trade or whatever's going to happen. But the situation with Danielle Hunter just does not look good at the moment. It doesn't look like there's going to be an amicable resolution between the two sides, so we'll have to wait and see what happens.
The good news, now that we're out on the shot, we're ending it. The good news is Justin Jefferson was at mandatory minicamp today, and that's all you need to know. That's a good
But
sign.
what was Ed Ingram there?
Was he?
I don't know.
I didn't see it. I just looked at, shout out to Will Ragats, whatever, however you say his last name. I'm sorry about messing up. And I looked this stuff on Twitter, and he's like, JJ's here today. I'm like, oh, thank God. A positive light.
But we've been going for over an hour, so we'll be back next week to talk a little bit more Vikings football. And we'll probably have the Danielle Hunter news next time we chat. We are on a bunch more spots for podcasts now. I added a bunch more of the smaller sites, so if you use a smaller podcast site, you might want to check because we might be on there now. We're also still on the major ones, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts, you can find us. And, of course, you can have almost a full library of shows. I think we've only had, 2 or 3 taken down for when we tried using that Screaming Trees music and we started getting DMCA'd.
That's been a long time ago, but yeah.
Shout out to Screaming Trees. What have you done?
But yeah, we'll be back to talk about all that, and you can find us in all those places. Thanks again to everyone who showed up in the chat, and thanks to everyone who likes, shares, subscribes, all that kind of stuff. Appreciate all of that.
Bam. Now we promote.
That is my handle. If you want to go on there and tell me that I look old and single, at MN Viking Zombie is a place to come and yell at me.
You can also find his work here at thevikingage.com.
True.
You can find me on Twitter at Vaguely Square, and we can discuss the current celebrities that I don't think are actually celebrities that just get made
Did you
up.
finally find out who Ice Spice is?
Nope, don't know, don't care. What's the new one we were talking about? Matt Rife? He came out of nowhere. He's some guy the internet made up like a week ago and is like, bruh, this guy's really important. No, he's not.
I tell you, all this AI stuff's getting out of hand.
Yeah.
You can buy Kyle West Photography here for the audio listeners. https://KyleWest84.fair, PICFAIR.com. He's a great photographer. I will always brag on him for that. I'm jealous. I wish that I could take photos like that. But not only photos, you can get Purple People podcast merch. Our recipient of the Rival League winner just got 2 free pieces of Purple Podcast merch on the house because he won the fantasy league. You can find stuff there. You get mouse pads, T-shirts, coffee mugs, phone cases, all that fun stuff. If you'd like to stalk me before I move to Virginia, I have a couple more shows here. I have one tomorrow in Gastonia, North Carolina at the Peter Wheel. I have one this Saturday at Los Bunkhouse in Hendersonville. Next week in Kings Mountain, trackside. I'm all over the place. So come hang, catch a show
Every
if
once
you're
in a while, you can
nearby.
catch Kyle Smith on his Instagram. He'll go live and play a song for you. And he recently released a new original song.
It's about Matt Rife.
It is about Matt Rife.
Yeah.
It's called Crowd. I've been collaborating at work with one of my good friends, one of the dog handlers here. He's a photographer like Kyle West. He does very good work. Actually, Kyle, you can check it out. He tagged me in a reel today with my song, which is really weird to see.
Oh, cool.
But I found my album cover, and I'm looking for all the songs. I mean, I have 7 right now, so I'm thinking maybe 8. If I do a full one, it'll be 9 songs, which is insane.
Are you going to be submitting your original songs to Spotify?
I'm gonna do everything as soon as I record them and we have everything mastered. Any platform it can go out on, I'm gonna distribute them there. So,
Nice.
Are you going to be in a SoundCloud rapper?
I don't know about the rapping part. Maybe I'll tell everybody I'm a SoundCloud rapper. That way they'll click on my stuff and then they'll be really disappointed when they're like, "What is this alt Americana bullshit right here?"
You could be like that guy who sang the Applebee's song.
Maybe in 5 years
God.
you'll have Patrick Mahomes on stage dancing to your song.
Yeah, so awesome. I think it was at a Luke Combs concert.
Yeah, Luke
He's
Combs.
a Charlotte guy. He's that's so funny. Patrick Mahomes just getting drunk up there dancing. That'd be good for ticket sales. I'd be happy to be the guy that's on the beer can stage at the entrance of the show at 4 p.m. That's kind of where I'm aiming for right now. We'll see if that happens.
Yeah.
Opening
But
for
that's
the
it.
people that are opening for Darius Rucker.
Yeah, open for the people that are open for it. That's correct. Yeah.
Hey, everybody needs a second opener. You need them. Someone's got to get them all warmed up. But once again, thank you to everyone. And please, if you can, go check us out. Like, share, subscribe. I know that we are one of the smaller podcasts out there, but we've been doing this a long, long time. And we have a lot of fun doing it. So we'll be back probably in about a week to talk more Vikings football. So in the meantime, stay classy, Minnesota.